For Catholic universities and colleges, mission is still a slippery, underdeveloped word. The language shows up in the mission statement, which is your mission is to be a university which does research, teaching, and service, blah, 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 that's the mission statement. But an awful lot of the time in Catholic universities and colleges, people slide off of that and say, here is the mission-related things we do, and here are the academic things that we do. To me, that is a complete misunderstanding of mission. The noun, university, which is about peer-reviewed research based that gives degrees, research that makes a presence on the intellectual landscape. That's what universities began as. That's why they've lasted. For us, the university is modified by 4 key adjectives, and they are: we are Catholic, which means we're not Catholic the way a parish is a Catholic, or a hospital is a Catholic, or an orphanage is a Catholic. We are Catholic as a university is Catholic. What is that? So we talk about that. It's part of our training. 2, what does it mean to say we are mercy? Mercy is a lot of things, but this is a university saying we are mercy. Therefore, the meaning of mercy is different than if it were a hospital. Great hospital systems and things like that. This is not a hospital. So the mission is different. The creative tension between the adjectives and the noun are the source of the creativity. Same thing with Jesuit, same thing with urban. So the way we try to explain ourselves to new trustees is to say, you need to know that this is a university based on peer-reviewed research and the granting of degrees, but that we also claim that it has 4 defining adjectives of the way we are a university.
John, your 4th adjective is very particular to the life and rejuvenation of your landscape, which is Detroit. So you're using urban as that adjective.
Mm-hmm. Catherine McAuley and St. Ignatius, the founder of the Mercies and the Jesuits, they both taught whenever you try to start making some decision that's important of whatever kind, you have to start by saying geographically, where am I at the start of this? You don't start. Now there is a very different tradition, Buddhism, that says do not be distracted by where you are. So there are other religious traditions, but we are a Catholic tradition, and at the heart of Catholicism is saying the time and place in which you live is sacred. Board members that we asked to join the board, we're looking for a few things. We want high professional achievement, and we want a credible interest in being part of the governance of this university, precisely this one. That means urban, it means Detroit. So that's what we are looking for: people that are smart, well accomplished, they have influence in society, and they want to help us govern ourselves. That's what they do. Well, one of the challenges of a mission officer, about trustees particularly, is that it's only about 25 years since the boards of trustees of Jesuit universities, that's the one I know the best, were fiduciary, meaning that the board was not run as owned and operated by the Jesuits model, where the provincial has hiring and firing power over every single employee, names all the board members, names all the administrators. So it's a top-down, and that was true for a few hundred years. But in the crisis of World War II and after, boards of trustees of Catholic universities began to say, we must abandon that owned and operated model. We must say we are engaging the world, not just our religious tradition. So that meant you had to say, how do you recruit trustees? Well, the Board of Trustees at this place in 1968 had about 7 members, all Jesuits, all named by the provincial. So breaking loose from that to saying we need a board that is hired the way boards are hired, that is, that are part of the secular academy. We need to get there. So little by little, we found a good way to solve the problem of a radical transformation was to divide it into 2 parts and to say our boards, and we used to call them lay boards, okay, they bring with them business expertise, fundraising expertise, marketing expertise. They take care of the body of the university. And Father always took care of the soul of the university. And when you needed a new president, you just get on the phone with the old boys network and say, well, who's around that would be good at fundraising? Our president, we need fundraising more than, and then you say, well, there's so-and-so, and there's so-and-so, and there's so-and-so. And they are just one jump away from being a president. They're deans and vice presidents and things. And you say, okay, get on the phone and call someone and say, we'd like you to be the president. If they say yes, your search is over. And then Father takes over from the previous father by telling board members what the soul of the university is and how it bears on policy. That lasted until maybe 1980, somewhere in there. But little by little, there weren't very many Jesuits who were capable of being presidents. Because you can't just know the identity of the university, you have to run a budget. So we have had since then, I can count 12 failed presidential searches. Meaning by that, the board hired a Jesuit who was incompetent one way or another and had to be fired, say, in a year. So what that was telling us is boards of trustees not only do not have many religious on them anymore, but boards of trustees don't know how to choose a president. And they have to learn, because you cannot afford to keep having failed searches. So the primary challenge for our boards now is to learn the soul of their university. No worry about the bodies, they know all that stuff and they're good, and that helps us a lot. But they need to learn the soul. No one else exists to name the next president. When the chairman of the board at the time and the president asked me as mission officer to develop a formation program for new trustees. So we did. It took us a while and we haggled and all that, the way you do. Well, we have 2 things that every new trustee is expected to do reasonably soon after joining the board. 1, they do a 1-hour interview with me about the 7 web pages that articulate our noun, university, adjective, and so on. And I ask them to read those web pages before they come, and then they say, tell me who we are. And that's what we have about an hour interview, usually over lunch in the Jesuit dining room. Then the next thing we ask them to do is to make our half-day retreat, which is based on those same principles, but it has small group, large group, all that kind of thing. About 1,600 employees have made that by now. We want trustees to make it with one of the groups so that the trustees have had the experience of employees wrestling with the same identity questions. So far, 13 trustees have made the half-day retreat with employees, and they always say, I think with no exceptions, the great thing about this is in the small groups, we get to hear actual employees talking about their work life on this campus and the other campuses. That you have no idea how valuable that is for an incoming trustee. So that's 2. And then there are some longer, more demanding things. when do you say we, all the schools, and their boards of trustees, we need to take seriously the benefits and the responsibilities of a network? I don't think the awareness of the fact of us being networks is very well developed, and it's a very big challenge. So I think networks are more important in the survival of our two networks than we as yet have the language to talk about very effectively. So that's a big challenge too, I think. So what about the morale of the Catholic Church in terms of everything it does? How do you learn how to be repentant and proud at the same time? You cannot deny evidence, and you better not try. But you cannot simply say that our failures, which are scandalous in the extreme, we cannot say our failures equal our entire identity. We cannot make the mistake of not saying we stand for things. We've earned the voice to stand for things in the intellectual landscape. What is essential is boards of trustees cannot depend on sister or father telling them about the soul of the university. They need to make judgment calls about the soul of the university when they are doing fiduciary things. They cannot simply say, all I have to worry about is budget stability. No, somehow or other there better be a reason for these schools to survive. And that is a huge pressure on every single Catholic school in this country, I think. So one thing that boards need to learn is that they need to learn to think about the identity of the university, not just the body. There's no one else to do it. So you need to get training in the history of your tradition and the method of prayer that is part of your tradition and the method of apostolic vision that is part of your tradition. You need to learn that stuff so that when you're judging among candidates for a next president, you can sort them out not just based on their fiscal stuff. That too, of course. But that you say, this one doesn't smell right to me. You've developed a sense of smell about Mercy Higher Education.